YouTube, what is going on, guys? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day wherever you guys are in the world. And guys, we got a fun one for you here in today's video. And in today's video, we are going over the USS Puerto Rico here, the newest legendary tier supercruiser to come to World of Warships Legends. Now, of course, she has come to the game in the form of an event ship, which I absolutely hate. I'm sick of event ships, but alas, if you want a review of the ship, here she is. You will, and if you want her, you will have to complete the event. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. No amount of videos or complaining is going to change the way Wargaming does things, so we're just going to move along with it. If you do want her, you will have to complete, like we said, the event. The event is in form of the Indipendiums. It will require you to complete the campaign, complete the calendar event, and spend about 80 to 90 US dollars in the form of the random bundles. I don't need to voice my opinions on that anymore, but that is just how you unlock the ship. Now for the review of the ship. As always, stats, commander guide, and all that fun stuff here. The USS Puerto Rico is an Alaska on steroids. However, she lacks a touch of sigma or grouping in the form of accuracy. Now you do have an entire extra turret in that regard, so you make up for it in a little bit of that. On top of that, you don't have the same armor, which some can argue it's better. However, I think it's just a touch worse. You do have a 27mm bow and nose. However, your citadel is below the waterline. So yes, some plunging fire certainly can absolutely wreck you, as well as up close shots which are aimed at the water, although I don't think I've ever gotten that to work myself. It feels like it's been done on me a few times. That's what she said. But she's also really chunky in the mid belt here. You will be taking massive chunk penetrations as well as your superstructure. So that is the overall main differences. On top of that, you also do have, I think, 7-kilometer base secondaries. With the secondary mod in slot 1 there, you can see that we can get them out to 8.4. So it's a secondary gimmick tanky cruiser with 12 305mm guns. In theory, this should be a fun little switch up between, you know, similar to the Michelangelo or the Schroeder. However, in application, it just doesn't work. Most engagements rather, at legendary tier happen at medium to long distances. That's why the Prussian is absolutely ruling the tier right now. I'm guessing in the future they will add in a commander that is tailor-made for this ship, a cruiser commander with secondary traits, because if you want any sort of brawling type, you will have to run a battleship commander, obviously. But with full sort of max secondary build, you can get her out to 11 kilometers with a base concealment of 11.7. So again, in certain situations, you can absolutely become an ambush predator with your below the water citadel. I just don't. We tried it a few games, and I'm sure that, yeah, someone's going to comment and be like, dude, this was the best secondary thing ever. And I'm sure people, you know, it works for some people. But for the most part, we played her with Norman Scott here. I truly think that's just kind of a good build. Einstein works, but I don't know. Scott, I think, is just a little bit better. Also, I've been trying to play a few more non-pay-to-win commanders or non-special commanders for your guys' viewing pleasure. So this is the build we're running in the game that we are about to see. And yeah, modifications here, we're going in sort of reverse order the way that I typically do things. Secondaries in slot 1, propulsion in slot 2, concealment in slot 3, and the legendary reload mod in slot 4. Your loadout is sonar, a radar, and a heel, which I think is slightly worse than Alaska. I'll have to double check that. We'll look at Alaska in just a second. But your radar is 9.9 for a 30-second duration. That is also one thing that is slightly different than Alaska, is the Alaska has a 9-kilometer radar. Let's look at the heel. So yeah, better heel, I believe, on the Alaska, and a slightly worse radar. So keep that in mind. How long is this for? 28 seconds versus 28 seconds. So yeah, better heel on the Alaska. Now the Alaska's been buffed like 3 times. It was, like we mentioned, a super battleship. The way when it was first released, that's actually how I got my YouTube channel started. I think was like my Alaska video. I was like one of the first people to get it. Pay to win all the way, right? Nothing has changed in 5 years. Gosh, I'm old. But yeah, that's the ship there. she's fun. Please don't go out of your way. This ship is on my not recommended list. If you don't play this game often, you're not an American cruiser guy, she is definitely not worth the $80 or $90, whatever the exact amount is US, in order to get this ship. Like we've said at the beginning of the video, I'm sick of event ships. Just make it like a bureau. And I get it, it's the 4th of July event, we had to put an event, but it seems like there's an event every other update now. And it creates this FOMO, which forces players sometimes to do things that they normally wouldn't do. And I'm guilty of it, right? College Football 26 just came out, and I think I just dropped like $100 or $200 on Ultimate Team. Like, I get it. So, yeah. But that is the sort of first look and overview of the USS Puerto Rico. And let's jump right into the gameplay. I love you guys. See you in a second. Here. Bye. Peace. Alrighty guys, and here we are with that gameplay. This of course was captured from a few streams ago, so if you remember that one, this was a little doozy of a game. A nice little high damage, high impact, but unfortunately, well, just stay till the end and you guys can see what happens here. We're going to go into a bit of the strategy portion, as we typically do, but I want to go into it a little bit more. I haven't been doing too many of those videos, and I've just got a lot of compliments and comments recently of people sort of thanking me for my older videos, which is truthfully the reason that I started my YouTube channel. It's crazy how full circle it all comes. We did it sort of, like I said, the first big video I can remember was the USS Alaska, and now we've got the USS Puerto Rico here. So I really appreciate you guys and the journey that this has been. But we are over here on the wide sea flank on Haven. Thank God they rearranged the spawns from the horrific ones that started. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but thank goodness they've changed them. Moving on, though, there's a few things that I want to cover here briefly, and they all sort of happen rather quickly, so let's get right into it. We are playing this pretty close to the Charlie Cap. Now, I did have a thought to go out wide, and it sort of grew on me as our Hindenburg decided to follow me, but I'm an American-heavy cruiser, and you are best played close to islands, close to caps, especially with our 9.9 kilometer radar. Truthfully, I would have liked for this Hindenburg to go out wide. He would have created a nice little crossfire, and as you guys saw me preach and sort of lose my shit on the stream the other night, you never want to be bunched up next to your teammates. Your blueberries, in most cases, are going to have no idea how to play the game. It's nice when they do, but in most situations, they simply don't, so you want to be away from them. Now, you saw us pop our sonar here and sort of briefly edge around this rock here, and the reason we're doing that is because there is a daring in the cap there. Now, there is also a Britishian pushing his way into the cap, which sort of threw me off, but you can tell that when there's two ships in the cap because of how fast it's ticking. You can see that it is almost already captured. Now, it's not quite a 2-to-1 ratio. However, it is going faster than the normal 60 seconds there. So we pop our radar. We did get actually a few shots from that Hindenburg and I believe one of the other battleships. We do manage to connect a nice salvo into him, but only 1,400 damage, a few incapacitations, a few defend ribbons there, and one fire. Now this Conqueror is spotted, so target of opportunity, and that is going to be that Hindenburg right there. But our guns were loaded, the Conqueror was spotted, rather. We took a shot, that is free damage there, and anytime you can get free damage, you want to do so. Now that is different than what I would argue the Hindenburg is doing right here. He is going out sort of broadside to a ship that can easily penetrate his armor. Now, he does have turtleback, as you can see. It's protecting him from getting directly citadeled. However, at those medium to long ranges, that is absolutely where you don't want to be in sort of the non-maneuverable Hindenburg, as this Hindenburg is going to find out. Now, we are playing this a touch risky. We're putting a good chunk of our broadside around the edge of this island here. However, we are playing with our throttle as we get lobbed by 1, 2, 3 ships. And yeah, we take a good bit of damage from them. Now, the Hindenburg, our friendly Hindenburg, rather, has gained a better position. However, if he would have been out wide, he could have been dealing with this Conqueror, resetting these guys from range, and protecting himself a lot better than he is doing in this situation. Also, in the meantime, we had a Yamato go down in a matter of seconds. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times before, but when you are in a battleship, you have to preserve your health, as we get a juicy little blind fire on this Mino here in the cap. You have to do a better job of managing your health than losing all of it in the first 2 minutes of a game. But there was a rather spicy blind fire, pure blind fire on that Mino and smoke. Just take a look at where the shells are coming from and try to put your shells directly in the middle of that is my advice for that blind fire. It takes months, if not years of practice to sort of get that, and we will still miss blind fires like that on shots that I feel like I should hit more often than not. But if you notice, we're not in a great position here. Now, we are doing our absolute best to try and remain somewhat concealed while also continually trying to do as much damage as possible. But in the first 4.5 minutes of this game, we already have about 50k. We've radared a destroyer, and we have attracted a little bit of damage ourselves. But if you notice, our two teammates are sailing in the same line we took. Now, we do have a somewhat of a strong flank over on this position here, but there's a Hindenburg, there's a destroyer, there's a Mino, there's a Conqueror. This is sort of, somewhat of an even fight in that regard. We did manage to clear that Hindenburg, which sailed aimlessly into the Charlie Cap. But on the opposite flank, we did lose another Stalingrad, which is approximately 60, 70,000 health. 65, I think. I forget the exact measure, but try to do it. If you find yourself dying early game, you have to do a better job of managing your HP. Do that with angling. Now, shit happens, right? As the proverbial expression goes. You're going to catch torpedoes. You're going to catch a bad citadel. We've been memed a few times. I think recently I've been trying to sail broadside just for science here. But it's one of those situations where if you find yourself losing games and not lasting past the 4-minute mark, you have to do a better job of HP management. Now, that does not mean hide in the back of the map like an absolute pansy. If you'll notice here, we are utilizing island concealment. However, we are close enough to the cap to radar it. We have attracted some damage ourselves, and we are now putting our ship in a position to be shot at. As we take probably one of the most favored shots in the game, a broadside Mino at medium range with 305 millimeter guns. Oh, sweet, sweet justice there. Our team does do a good job of getting the eliminations over there on that flank, but we need to clean it up here in terms of the destroyers and get a few caps. However, if you notice, our Hindenburg has gone down, and our Conqueror, I believe it is, or whatever battleship this is off to my right here, is soon to follow. Kurfürst, yes, the most influential ship in the game. But with the elimination of that ship there, you will notice there is nothing left on our flank. We have to fight a Conqueror, a Prussian, a Daring, and we have already killed the Mino. So essentially a 3-on-1 in this situation, and it's not looking great for our team. If you'll notice, one of our destroyers was also taking a wide flank there. I don't exactly know what happened. It's one of those situations where you kind of look at it midway through the game and you're like, what is this guy doing? Now, I did not play the game through his eyes, through his controller, so we don't know exactly what happened. You will find later that the Lucian actually worked his way behind the enemy base here and basically just ruins any chance of a comeback for our team. However, because it took him so long to do so, we could have taken the caps and reversed the course of this game. And there you see the Lucian in our backfield. And I know, right, this is the difference between taking a damage-hungry play and a play that is beneficial for the team. Now, someone is going to watch this video and say that I am in the wrong, and that's absolutely fine. However, there is not much more I could have done in this situation. We're attracting damage. We are now spotted between 2 battleships, a Daring out there, and a Lucian behind us. But I know that if I don't push my way into this cap to help the battleships, the only remaining battleships that we have, and our remaining Shima to eliminate this Lucian, we are for sure going to lose this game. And that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Sometimes you're not going to get the games that go your way, and this was an absolute perfect example of that. We lost a bunch of ships early on, one of which was a radar cruiser, which decreased our chances overall. We got shit matchmaking. We got teammates that wanted to follow us, and that's honestly how the game's going to go a majority of the times. You will absolutely see my frustration later on, especially as we don't get the RNG of the follow-up fire. But there is the Lucian well within our radar range, so we are going to wait until our guns are reloaded, and on target, we pop the radar there. I'm waiting for him to make a decision. Typically, when destroyers are radared, they like to panic and press that A or X button to accelerate. This guy did not, though. I'm guessing he has the Shima sonared, so that is why he's sort of sitting in this situation, and he also has some early notification of the torpedoes on the way. The Shimakaze, despite sort of taking that wide flank, did actually do a decent job here of shooting his freaking guns. I don't know what it is about Japanese destroyer players not shooting their guns, but it is quite possibly one of the most frustrating things in the world when they don't take advantage of a situation like this. If you hate destroyers as much as I do, especially Japanese destroyers that get behind you, or players who think they have an exuberant amount of skill because they can utilize 5.0 concealment and torpedoes that do 15 to 20,000 damage while no one actively hunts them out, then every time a destroyer is spotted, you need to fucking shoot at it. There's nothing else to be said about it. You need to shoot destroyers. And with that elimination, we actually tie up the game until, of course, our Elbing goes down. This is just sort of an unfair set of circumstances for an Elbing. There's not really an open area of the map. He got down tiered, so I don't blame him that much. However, there are certain things you can do in a situation like that. Try to bait the enemy into making mistakes, try and get the caps. But we still have a chance here, right? We are down a good amount of points, and that is why I preach so often, get the caps. When you get the capture points, as the accuracy or lack thereof is on beautiful display, as that Prussian gets rather lucky. The follow-up salvo after he put out, I think it was a double fire or a fire, where he was on basically 2,000 health. Didn't kill him, nor did it set that permanent fire to get the elimination. And now we're going to pay for it. He can overmatch our bow. He can penetrate our midsection if we are angled enough. And typically the rule of thumb is anytime you're able to get your back turrets on, you can probably get penetrated, as we tick a nice little fire there, 9 penetrations and the high caliber. But yeah, here is a good example of that. We lose like 4,000 or 5,000 health from one, or I think it was just one, but one penetration, 1 or 2 penetrations from those 457 millimeter guns. Now, in terms of strategy, there's not much left I can do. I have decided to go with refill station. Fully packed is always going to be better in terms of your impact in the game. But in most cases, I'd say in 80 to 90% of lobbies, that third radar is just truthfully not needed. We have seen often, especially from Chile, if you guys know who I'm talking about, he will run a plane on half of his American cruisers with an Arthas build and do far better than 99% of the player base. Now, in a situation like this, it is absolutely needed. This third radar would have been instrumental in helping me trying to get the elimination on the remaining daring. But as you can see, our Kurfürst goes down, and it is now a 2-on-1. If this Shima would have potentially went straight in, now there's not that much time left. You can see I know that I have to get kills and potentially get in this cap, but at this point in the game, the only way that we're going to win this game is by getting those eliminations. The enemy daring player, I believe I know them, is a smart player, and he would probably never get caught, but there's nothing left to do but try in this situation. It is frustrating, and don't get me wrong, you'll see a little frustration leak out here as our Shima decides the best play in this situation is to charge a Conqueror with the absolute best HE performance amongst all battleships at, 3-4 kilometers around a corner. And yeah, here is basically the finishing touch of this game, as it probably should have been a Dev Strike, 2 or 3 HP away from a Dev Strike, which gives that Conqueror a Kraken and Confederate as the Conqueror rounds the corner. If the Shima, as we get, I'm going to be honest, I got freaking robbed there, but you can just see it in my face. This game is over at this point. Well played to the Conqueror, but if the Shima had not rushed him, he might have continued long ways around that corner as we get absolutely nuked. I think that was HE. I'm pretty sure it was because we put out a fire there, but just a great example of the midsection of the ship just being an absolute damage sponge. So PR is a fun ship as we try to take aim at the bow and miss all, what is that fraction? 4 out of 12 there at 4 kilometers is just something that I would not pay $20 for, much less 80. So, but as we were mentioning, a fantastic game and GG's to that Conqueror, but a 23-67 finish on the losing team. So if you add in the 1.5 multiplier that we would have gotten for a win, yeah, this would have been a pretty spicy game. But that is how the cookie crumbles sometimes. You're not going to get the teammates all the time, especially recently. I don't know if it's, just my roll of dice recently, but I feel like my teams have been absolutely brain dead. And, you know, that's not to be said for this team. This team showed signs of life in certain situations. The game lasted at least until the last minute as we show our lovely hide stream screen here. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Let me know what you think of the Puerto Rico. Are you going to whale for it? Like I said earlier, I recommend not doing so. She's fun, but definitely not worth the hype in this situation. So I know as a CC, I'm not supposed to say that, and I'm definitely bought and paid for by Wargaming, as all of the clowns in the comments will say. But a ship that is fun, but definitely not worth the hype or the cost there. So love you guys. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, run out. Peace.